Hello and welcome to Who Watches the World Cup, the only podcast where we drink in the morning because England lost the Euros final. Dave, how you doing?
Maybe I'm doing a bit better than you. Cracking open a cider on a Tuesday afternoon. Well, it's like midday on a Tuesday. We've had to. We should say actually, it's been a couple of days since the final actually happened, and I think I'll speak for myself. I think I needed some time to digest before we could go into to breaking this all down.
Yep, I'm drinking in the morning because I'm spelling the morning with a U. That's the kind of morning I've been doing for the last few days. And I'm not getting over it anytime soon, to be quite honest. So, cheers.
Cheers, I'll take a sip of my coffee while you do that.
Fucking hell. I'm just going to get that out there early.
The fucking
hell. Now, I expect that we have different feelings about this situation. I imagine that you're coming in with a little bit more like sorrow, some heartbreak. Oh, our boys, they did so well. They were so close. And I'm coming in here like, this is a fucking shambles. And that's like, go for it. Tell me how you're feeling, how you felt in the build-up, how we got to now. Like, were you proud to have seen, we got an extra step on the last World Cup. We got to the semis. This time we got to the final.
Whoa, man. Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, I wasn't wholly disappointed after the match. I guess I did kind of think, maybe like you were saying, well, this is one step further than we got 3 years ago. And maybe thinking we would win, having not got to the final, a final in so long was a dream too far. A bit of an idea above our station. But I didn't have great confidence before the game. And a bit like what happened in the World Cup, for a moment, I almost let myself get carried away after we went 1-0 up. And even throughout most of the first half, I was like, oh shit, this could be it. And then things kind of reverted to typical England. And then as the longer the game went on, I just thought, this is not going to end well. So yeah, by the time it all ended, by the time the last penalty was saved, I was kind of just like, well, yeah, I guess that's kind of what should have happened, really, isn't it? Why would we ever expect or hope for anything more than what we get as English football fans? And I think some of the build-up maybe put a bit of a downer on my spirits outside of football, about issues external to football, and the kind of want and disregard for public health and safety beforehand it kind of ruined the spectacle, ruined the event for me.
These are the actions of the fans forcing their way into stadiums and so on.
Well, no, I didn't. Yeah, that definitely exacerbated things. But even beforehand, when we've spoken a lot, and you've educated me quite a lot about the state of COVID in the UK. As it stands. So when the semi-final was announced, they'd allow 40,000 people into Wembley. I was kind of like, I don't think that's sensible, but
that sounds like a bad idea. Yeah,
sounds like a bad idea, and my cynical brain is telling me exactly why this is happening and who's made this decision. And then when they increased the capacity even more to 60,000 for the final, there's like, that's an even worse idea. And then, although the scenes of fans gathered here, there and everywhere throughout the country were very jubilant, and even the pundits were saying, oh, isn't it great to see everyone's out supporting the nation, it just felt like it was really putting blinkers on and going, la la la, we don't want to think about COVID anymore, blah blah blah, let's just enjoy something, for fuck's sake. Let's at least have a little bit of joy in our lives. And at least for me, I don't want to put a dampener on anyone who was trying to reinvigorate their life with a bit of joy after the last 18 months we've had. Like, I understand that. it felt so premature, and like the powers that be were trying to win some popularity points instead of actually just looking out for the benefit of the masses. And so the football was harder to enjoy because of these external factors for me, really. And it kind of was brought home as I listened to your semi-final episode. Thank you very much for doing that on your own. I appreciate that. But yeah, and as you pointed out, COVID has hit home literally for me this week. So yeah, it kind of was all that happened before the final. We my girlfriend got a positive test on result back on Sunday morning after we both went and got tested on Saturday. So even before the game started, we had these home truths dropped in our laps. So yeah, all things considered, even if I don't want to be too critical of the public and of the government and of UEFA, which I do because they deserve it, it was all a bit harder to savour.
Yeah, I think the conversation about how the government have exacerbated fans is going to be something we're going to get very much into later on in this conversation. And not just to do with COVID, but to do with racism and things as well, because that's kind of going to be an unavoidable discussion now at this point. I'm still angry.
Yeah,
and everything about it has made me angrier as well. Right, everything surrounding it, and again we'll get on to that stuff later on. But just to stick with the actual football for the moment.
Yeah, sure.
Because you know how at the beginning of the tournament, I was saying the problem with England is they just can't score. And Raheem Sterling can't put the ball into Harry Kane. And Harry Kane doesn't get any chances to take a shot on goal. And then when Jack Grealish comes on, everything explodes and Luke Shaw can do things. Luke Shaw's a player we haven't been able to harness properly. And then we get to the final, and within 3 minutes, Luke Shaw scores. I'm like, well, I've previously apologised twice for England and Raheem Sterling actually playing football the way, especially during that Ukraine match, where it was like, oh my God, this is what they were supposed to be doing. This is amazing. And then in the final, I was proved vindicated, Dave. I was right all along, and England sucked.
For I don't know how to... 120 minutes of it, I'd say England were frustrating and annoying for all but about 40 minutes of that game.
That first 30 minutes was pretty spectacular football. And it's one of the things that my mum was saying, actually, because Italy were my mum's favourite team. Like, I was like Denmark the whole way through, and mum was like, no, Italy, they play amazing football, they look so great. And when England, for the first 30 minutes, my mum said, England are playing like Italy, and that's why we're winning. And it was kind of true. We were playing really good, nice-looking football, and then they became England again. And it's that thing that we've spoken about before, where it's that national mentality that it doesn't matter which players you're playing, it doesn't matter who the coach is, it's the England national team mentality that's just ingrained into them somehow that other countries don't have but that we do, where culturally, we got one, we tried, we didn't get another, so best that we sit back for the next 70 minutes and we don't press. We just as soon as the Italians lost the ball, bam, they were on us. As soon as we lost the ball, it was all right. We better sit back.
Yeah, it's a real. I think it's a real culture of. It's definitely a culture of fear, of being afraid to overexpose yourself in case you get burned, basically. But it must come from a place of not feeling like we deserve anything, so that if we start with a bit of enthusiasm, especially from minute one, when you walk out and you go, let's make this different, let's make this not do it the way that we fall into naturally, let's make a concerted effort to be dynamic and be exciting. And I don't just mean this in a footballing sense. I think this is kind of an English thing where we maybe have the capacity to step out from at the beginning and be like, let's do it. Let's look at us. Let's do this kind of American yeehaw, ride 'em cowboy. Let's take it to them kind of attitude. But then we don't really feel like our self-esteem is so low that when that succeeds or when we get something from it, our first thought is not to go, well, that worked, let's keep doing that. Our first thought is, oh my God, I can't believe we got that. Now, whatever you do, don't let that go. Like, we can't let this slip through our fingers. So we get so defensive and negative as a people that we stifle ourselves and we forget how to express ourselves. And it's just this fear of losing what we have instead of trying to go on and add to it and have even more.
Yeah. And again, it was as we discussed on previous episodes, is Southgate a tactical genius for playing this kind of football where we never get any shots on goal, but we somehow manage to get through? Well, apparently not. Again, this is the thing that makes me so angry, is that we will never have another tournament where we have such an advantage over everybody else, right? This whole tournament, we have had every possible advantage to the point where we basically put in a cheat code, right? We put in a cheat code that went, oh yeah, and by the way, we're playing all our bloody games at home, mate. And we put in a cheat code that went, oh, and by the way, the defenders at the back are over 30 years old and we've got like the fastest players in the tournament. Oh, and by the way, mate, they've lost their best defender and the person who drove them forward this entire tournament, and he's gone. So we've got everybody. Like we've used the cheat code to get rid of everybody's injuries on our team, and we put a major one on them. So it's like, wow, we've hampered them now, and it's like there will never be another tournament in which England are better prepared or better situated to win than this one. And if we can't win in the tournament where we are given everything, literally everything, then it's just not possible.
Well, I actually wonder if it could be argued the opposite way around in relation to what I was saying about we don't feel like we deserve anything to be easy. We feel like we have to do it a hard way. I wonder if it's more English for us to fail when we have every possible advantage and all the chips are in place for us to succeed. I wonder if it's more English for us to go against the grain and succeed against adversity, like in Russia. That no one really expected us to get that far, and it was hard, and we were far from home, and it was all more of a challenge on a daily basis. Maybe that's the recipe for success. Instead of like sleeping in or being wrapped in cotton wool every step of the way, and then we get to dip our toe into chilly waters in Rome for one game, and then like, okay, don't worry, but you get to come back home and sleep in your bed. Or I'm sure it's at George's Park, they all have their set rooms, and they every time they get called up to England, they sleep in the same place, and like it's all too cozy and too homey. And I think maybe that's a hampering effect. That doesn't help. You get too comfortable. It's harder then to go from. I think it's easier to go from sleeping on like that's like a military, like army kind of metaphor. I think it's easier to go from sleeping in a cave on a rock to then stepping outside and going into lethal warfare than it is to be sleeping in a cozy bunk, riding on a helicopter, landing in the middle of a war zone, and then being like, okay, shit, now I've got to do this army thing, this this soldier thing. Whereas if you've been doing it day after day after day for weeks with no breaks, maybe the mentality is that you make that shift a bit easier. I don't know.
Yeah, there were a few things I've been listening to recently, a book by the Hardcore Histories podcaster Dan Carlin, who I was listening to when I was at yours, actually. I was listening to his podcast Supernova in the East about the Japanese in World War II.
That guy, yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to his book called The End Is Near this week. And he goes on, the first, I think it's either the preface or the first chapter, is all about the unquantifiable trait that is toughness, and how we as humans look back on previous generations or on different societies and go, that is a society or a generation that was tough tough. Right, and we especially say this about like our World War II generations, right, where we've got that Blitz generation in the UK where they were born and they grew up through the Great Depression in the late 1920s. Like their parents went through the First World War, they went through the Spanish flu, they went through the Great Depression, and then, oh, by the way, here's Hitler in the Second World War. You can imagine, and as Dan Carlin explains, you can see how that might toughen the human society up. And we have societies through human history, like ancient Sparta, where the entire culture is designed to toughen you up. If as a baby you are not tough enough, they'll throw you off a cliff. And, you know, as you go through life, when you're about 6 years old, they just take you away from your parents and go, right, you've had your breastfeeding, now it's time to toughen you up. And then as a teenager, they stop feeding you and they say, you've got to steal your food. But if you're caught, we'll whip you for it to toughen you up. And then you go through a human, you know, and then eventually you become part of the city militia, the city army. And when you go and fight Athens, well, Athens is a city of poets and pottery makers. So what chance do they stand against this city that have been raised stealing, being whipped, being torn away from their parents, being trained? And we look at the current England crop of players, and they have faced so much adversity from their own country, but at the club level, the only person on that England team who is fucking tough enough is Luke Shaw. And the reason that Luke Shaw was, to my mind, the England player of the tournament is because he was great, then he was injured, then he had Mourinho being an absolute fuck to him for years, and then he came back from that and was like, right, now I'm the best player on the England squad. And you could say, did the Mourinho coaching thing work for Luke Shaw? Not while Mourinho was the coach there. It ruined Luke Shaw. But then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer comes in and goes, I'm going to give you the kind of management that you need. But Luke Shaw has been whipped for the last 3 years and he's able to grow into something, right? There was no expectation on Luke Shaw because it's like, oh, we even played Trippier in the first game. We didn't even play Luke Shaw in the first game. No one expected Luke Shaw to be the difference maker, but he was in almost every game. Luke Shaw was the difference maker. He got the assists. He got the goal in this one. Like, Luke Shaw is England's player of the tournament, and he was tough. He was tough. And the other person who was defensively tough, actually, was Kyle Walker. And for the whole tournament, I was saying, Kyle Walker is a terrible right back. When we played 4 at the back and Kyle Walker was on the right, he was no good going forward, right? But when we played 3 at the back with Kyle Walker as like a sweeping defender, he was unbeatable. And like that was incredible to see, I thought. But the England, you know, Luke Shaw is tough. Kyle Walker played a great defensive game. But Italy come in and they just, you know, what have you got against a steamroller? When half your team are 5'7" speedy guys, what have you got against a steamroller? Well, not much in the end.
Not enough, yeah. Because what we have against a team like Italy was an engine in midfield of Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips, who were great all tournament. They never stopped, and I think we kind of... Jordan Henderson, I don't think really made any mistakes, but we missed Declan Rice when he went off for Jordan Henderson.
Declan Rice was great as well, yeah.
Yeah, and Calvin Phillips, I don't even know how he's managed to play like every single game the whole way through, and by the end he doesn't even look that tired. He's insane. And yeah, our defensive central players, whether it be Stones and Maguire or Stones, Maguire and Walker, yeah, I thought they were strong. They were great. They didn't really put much wrong. And we conceded 2 goals from open play in the whole tournament, both of which were kind of the result of set pieces. So not even open play. I take, obviously that's I misspoke there. 2 goals from set pieces. So our actual open play defending was pretty good, but then yeah, Italy were relentless. Once they got their foot in the game, and like right before half time, they kind of started to emerge. And I was kind of thinking, watching that first half, I kind of hope, wouldn't it be great if the rules could change for this one game and it's just 90 minutes straight? Because what England don't want now is half time where they can relax and take the weight off, and Italy can go into their changing room and be like, okay, this hasn't gone well, we need to make a change.
Change it up, yeah.
And which is what they did, and it worked. They just changed their way they played and their mentality, and England had no answer for it because we didn't change anything. A typical Southgate, we'd have made no real changes.
Well, he made that change. I think it was immediately after Italy scored. Southgate took off Trippier, brought on Saka, and swapped to 4 at the back.
Yeah, right? Which makes sense. Like that.
Yeah, well, to me, I thought that was the death sentence at that point, to my mind, because I understand why you do that, but the problem, exactly as you're saying, the problem wasn't that we had 3 at the back, because we conceded no goals from open play at all, right? The whole point of having 3 at the back was that it allowed Shaw and Trippier to push up, right? And it allows Maguire to push up from the central defence as well. So you have your 2 defenders at the back, you've got Stones and Walker sweeping in around the back, and then you've got essentially 3 players at the back who can drive you forward. But the minute you take that away, Shaw can't go up, Walker now on the right can't go up. So all you have done is brought on Saka, who is fast, but he isn't giving you anything because there's nobody behind him to drive stuff up.
Yeah, I think I messaged you at that time, like, I can't figure out where Saka is supposed to be playing here.
Yeah.
Like, is he supposed to be playing as part of a front 3, or is if they put him in the midfield 3 for some reason? Like, I couldn't figure out where he was supposed to be, and he just never seemed to fit into either system, really. And I'm not sure that was the right. I'm definitely not sure that was the right move. And he didn't show what he'd kind of shown in other games. And I wonder if he's more of a player who has a better impact from the start than he does coming off the bench, especially against a team like Italy, who are very hard. Like, we talked about toughness. Italy are tough.
Yeah.
And then even in that one moment where he kind of got away from Chiellini, and Chiellini dragged him back by his neck. Mm-hmm. That was the only thing I can really remember him doing, and that made me that made me a little bit angry, because, like, by the letter of the law, if you pull someone back by their shirt, it's a yellow card. But I don't know. I think there should be some room for interpretation there, where that is dangerous play. Like, that could cause serious harm. And
it was basically a tombstone pile driver.
Yeah.
Where he got him by the neck and threw him to the ground.
Yeah.
And Saka, it wasn't like Saka went into a foul, like Grealish might play into a foul. Saka had forward momentum, and then he was pulled off his feet. Like, there should, again, I'm English, but to my mind, Italy could easily have had 2 red cards in this game. They had 5 yellow cards. 5 of their players got yellow cards in the game with no sending off. They could easily have had 2.
Yeah,
easily.
I mean, if that one on Saka, if Maguire does that on Chiesa and he gets a red card, I'm kind of like, well, yeah, I get it, because that is fucking ridiculous. What a stupid thing to do. Whereas, because all he had to do, be it Chiellini in real life or Maguire in this imagined flipped scenario, just it's the bottom of the shirt. Just pull him by the side of his shirt. You do that cynical foul that stops them forward momentum. You take the yellow card and you protect your team. But that was reckless and endangered the other player. And I think the other red card you're thinking of is when Jorginho stamped on Jack Grealish in extra time, which again to me seemed like a stone wall penalty. And VAR has kind of not really been all that involved in a load of games or loads of instances throughout this tournament, which I suppose has been good. I think it has been used quite moderately. But then that was one where I think that VAR should be like, well, he clearly stamps on the guy, so I kind of think we need the referee to check whether he thinks this was intentional or not. But they didn't. They never called Bjorn Kuipers over to the sideline once to check anything, even when Sterling went down for a possible penalty. And like a few different angles, that was a little bit what's the word? Like, you've seen them given that kind of cliche. And I think actually he did get tripped. If you watch some at one of the angles of the replays, I think it's Bonucci, because Sterling's trying to sort of cut between Bonucci and Chiellini. I think Bonucci does trip. He kicks the back of Sterling's leg, which knocks him to the ground, and that was more contact on Sterling than there was on him for the Denmark penalty in the semi-final.
Yeah.
So again, these are kind of things that the referee should be encouraged to have a second look at. And maybe things go differently, but ultimately we're talking about a couple of nitty-gritty decisions which sure hopefully would have swung things in England's favour, because I feel like they were unfair advantages, the fact that these players got to stay on the pitch, but we don't know. And it could also be very England to have a man sent off for the other team, or even two, and then still struggle to break down Italy, because if anything, Italy and England have been the two hardest teams to break down this whole tournament. And it seemed like, and certainly showed in the game, that if you're going to score against Italy, do it right at the beginning when maybe they're a little bit caught cold, because once they get settled and once they get their hackles up, they're almost impossible to break down.
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, you're right. I don't want to do the English thing of going, oh, if the referee had done this, and if blah 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 blah. Like, the worst thing that England do is when they come back and go, we played well, we just got unlucky with some of the decisions there. Like, no. In that first 20 to 30 minutes, England should have put two in the back of the net. Like, they should have done, with the quality that they were playing. And this goes down ultimately to the fact that we only had 6 shots on target in the entire game. In that first half, where we dominated for 30 minutes, we had 1 shot on target, and that was the goal. Like, that's 6 shots over 120 minutes. Whereas Italy had 19 shots on target. They had 6 shots on target, which is as many shots as we had altogether. Right? They had 66% possession and 19 shots. And yeah, also they had twice as many fouls as we did, and they had 5 yellow cards. So, go figure. Also, you can say they had 19 shots, 6 on target, but they only got a goal from a free kick. So that's good defending, right? But if we're looking comparatively at the attack, this whole tournament has been let down by the people ahead of Phillips and Rice. Anyone ahead of Phillips and Rice has massively underperformed this tournament.
Well, massively may be overstating it, but certainly blanket underperformed, yes. Like, Harry Kane had a great spell of a couple of games where he remembered how to score, but I don't know if any of those 6 shots in the final were from him. I don't remember if he ever had a shot. It took him a while throughout the group stages to even get shots away, let alone find any shots on target. And some of it has to come down to management decisions as well. Because when Southgate brought Saka in, he performed brilliantly and he created things and he would terrorise defences. Sterling showed that he is almost what's the word I was going to say, unleave-outable. But yeah, when he wants to be, he is a real terror as well. Sancho, when he came in, showed that he if he's given the chance, he can do great things. Grealish, we can all say, I'm sure we all will say, wasn't given enough pitch time, because when he came on, he did change things, and I was annoyed when it took into extra time for him to bring him on in the final, when we clearly needed something different, and Southgate didn't take it. I don't think Southgate. I don't think we can come away going Southgate fucked it.
Because I can.
Ultimately, we got this far, and so many of his decisions paid dividends, and the times where he got it wrong was in the final. I don't think necessarily the formation from the start was wrong. Playing 5 at the back, that you said.
Yeah, I think that was the right call.
It was really effective, and it seems defensive, but actually, with the way modern football works and how fluid things are, like you say, 5 defenders looks defensive, but then really it's maybe 3 defenders and plus the wing backs, and then and then Maguire or Stones or Walker can walk up. So sometimes you're left with just 2 at the back, and it just adds to this flowing of vertical transition up the pitch. So it's, if not the system, just maybe the personnel, when it came to changes, was the issues, I think, here. And we've seen and we've spoken before about his reluctance to make substitutions. Maybe he lacked a little bit of courage in certain places, but then other times, like when he took Grealish off, having brought him on, like that's ruthless, and it worked in the semi-final against Denmark. And then he did the same thing to Jordan Henderson in the final, brought him on for Rice, and then took him off for someone who ended up taking a penalty. Which, can we talk about that while I've landed on this?
Yes.
Can we talk about the strategy, the tactic of, with a couple of minutes to go in extra time, bringing on
your penalty takers.
Bringing on penalty takers. Because I guess if Sancho and Rashford had scored their penalties, we'd have been like, Southgate, brilliant. But so maybe you can't blame. I don't know. I don't know who to blame. I don't know whether to blame the choice, because
this brings me back to that conversation we had a couple of episodes ago, where I was saying about the New Orleans Saints coach,
the onside kick,
with the onside kick. Yeah, Sean Payton, the coach for the New Orleans Saints, was kind of heralded as a strategic mastermind for starting the second half of the Super Bowl with an onside kick. It was radical. No one ever thought of it. It couldn't even have been considered. And it was like, wow, this guy's a tactical mastermind. And they said that because it succeeded. But if he had failed, people would have been like, he's crazy. What is he doing? And what the pundits said would have been completely the opposite thing, right? Like, your worth is based upon whether it's successful or not the idea of the action itself. The action itself could be tactically sound or fucking batshit crazy. But if it works, you're a genius. And if it fails, you're not. And that's one of the things about Southgate here, is that he has been tactically conservative the entire tournament. And we know that because we've only scored, we scored 4 goals in 4 games. And that was it. Right, those first 4 games, we only scored 4 goals. Then in Ukraine, we got 4 goals, and everyone was like, wow, this is it. England, they're here. But it was the Germany game that gave a lot of people, including myself, the chance to go, all right, Southgate, okay, I haven't been sure up until now, but a 2-1 win over Germany, that gives you a lot of credit in everyone's book. And then we get here again, and he plays tactically conservative the entire game to his detriment again. Why did we not beat Scotland? Southgate was being tactically conservative, right? Why did we scrape through those other games? Southgate was being tactically conservative. And by deciding not to make any big changes, he does an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Right, that thing I was always terrified of was that he was going to end up doing what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did in the Europa League final and not make any changes and then screw it on penalties. And when he brings on Grealish, it's too late by then.
Yeah, I can imagine the pressure on Jack Grealish then. It's like we bring him on when we need a goal, and that's why he didn't come on against the Ukraine. And that's why Southgate put his arm around him, I presume, and said, listen, we didn't need you, so we'll bring you on when we need you. But then you're going, I'd love to know, I haven't got it in front of me, what minute it was we brought him on an extra time. But then you're saying, like, this is the most high-pressure game of your life, of the country's, this generation, multiple generations' lives, and we're looking to you to do something. And Jack's like, all right, mate, cheers, you could have given me more than 20 minutes to do this. Why not bring me? Yeah, so that is that shows a bit of that's fear. I think that's a fearful act by by Southgate, instead of making that change in a time where it can end the game, you know. So instead of going, oh, it's ticking towards 90 minutes, we either make a bold decision.
We better not concede.
Yeah, but instead of being bold and going, let's fucking end this now, lads. It's not going to extra time because we say it isn't, because we're going to score. He just goes, oh, we'll just hold on a bit longer. We'll hold on a bit longer, and then we've got 30 more minutes to maybe hope something happens. That's a little bit fearful in my eyes, in my opinion, I should say.
Yes. So in previous episodes, I apologised to Sterling and I apologised to Southgate for criticising them when they got the results that were necessary. Rio Ferdinand said, "What's it going to take for England fans to really get behind Sterling?" And I said, "Well, I'd like for him to play well, actually." And so I had to apologise when he did play well. Raheem Sterling, nowhere to be seen this game. He was about as invisible on this pitch as Harry Kane was. And that was kind of the problem with Mason Mount. Why Mason Mount had to come off was because Mason Mount was the player in that forward position who got the ball the most. But because he was essentially up there on his own, he kept giving the ball away. And so Mason Mount appears to be not playing very well because Sterling and Kane aren't doing anything to help him out. Anyway, we've criticised England for a long time, and I'm still angry about it. But let's move on to how angry everybody else is about it. Because England fans, Dave, I don't know if you're aware of this reputation, but we're not well loved abroad.
No. Yes. We should say due to the actions of a minority. But as is always the case in everything negative in the world, the minority are the loudest and most brash and brazen and visible, and therefore reputations are forged based on them, rather than the quiet majority.
Yeah. English fans pushed past security to get into the stadium without tickets. English fans assaulted Italian fans after the match. England fans booed the other team's national anthem. England fans booed their own team when they knelt to take the knee. England fans subsequently racially abused the three players that came on to take penalties and missed, which, going back to the football, again, terrible choice by Southgate to bring those players on, and terrible penalties all around. And to be fair, good work by Jordan Pickford there for what has otherwise been a somewhat cagey tournament for him. You could not have asked any more of Pickford in that shootout.
No, he kind of had no right to save that Jorginho one either.
Yeah,
that was just great homework, and he committed to it. Yeah, great save, and he kept us in it. And for a second after he saved that, I was like, maybe it can happen, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, it's we touched on it, but the decision to bring someone on who's been sat on his ass for an hour, for 2 hours watching a football match, to then throw him on and then go, okay, in 5 minutes you're gonna have to take one of the most important penalties of your life. Better not fuck it up. I hope you're ready. I don't know if a player can be expected to do that. If Rashford had played for an hour, I think he'd probably score. And if Sancho had played for an hour, I think he'd probably score. I don't really get that decision. I think if it gets to 118 minutes and you've got some substitutions to make, you've left it too late. They should have done it earlier. I think the reason he left it so late is because he couldn't fit them all into the system. So Marcus Rashford ended up playing as right wing back for the last 2 minutes, just so he would be on the pitch. So not only is Marcus Rashford's mindset, I'm going on because there's penalty shootout coming and I need to score, he's got to spend 2 to 5 minutes out of position, panicking about making sure he doesn't fuck up in defence when he's not a defender by any stretch. But he's seen as one of the more senior responsible members of the squad. So you do a job, Marcus, because you have the fortitude to do it. But, he's just a guy. He's just a human. I think you're putting too much on a person to expect anything from that.
Yes. It's a crazy decision to make. Crazy. crazy decision. And again, if it works, hey, Southgate's a tactical mastermind. Look, he saved all of his penalties to bring players on at the end. But Saka also had the penalty to take and he missed. If it had just been Sancho and Rashford who had missed and Saka got that last one, we would have been like, God, that was a dodgy penalty call. Thank God we got through it.
Yeah, right. But maybe Saka doesn't miss if the other two before him don't miss.
Well, because Saka doesn't miss, does he? He gets saved. Like again, that's Dormammu being unbelievable. Like just as well as Pickford did. Dormammu had an amazing penalty run as well.
I guess, yeah, but I think the difference between I was going to say Dormammu, but I was trying to say his real name. The difference between Donnarumma is that he guessed the right way and the penalties weren't good enough to evade him. Harry Kane's penalty, he went the right way, but it was so perfect that even the 6'20" goalkeeper like him could guess the right way, full stretch, and still not get it. It's because the penalty was good enough. Sancho and Saka's penalties just weren't good enough, so they were the easier saves, whereas Pickford was at full stretch low for the Jorginho one. That was a very difficult thing to do, even if you guessed the right way.
Yeah, another big difference between, say, this and American football as well is, when you have the American football players on the sidelines and like the kicker is on the sidelines getting ready to come and take the kick after touchdown, and they have a net at the back and they have a little ball, and what they do is the kickers sit there and they kick their ball into the net to get their legs ready, to get themselves warmed up, right? Whereas in football, you just do some stretches, you jog on the side of the pitch a bit, you cheer your teammates on, that's your warm-up. If on the side of the pitch we had, or, back in the changing rooms or something, in a small area away from the pitch, you had a goal that they could warm up taking penalties at for 15 minutes before they come on, and you go, right, in the locker room, we've set up some turf. We've put AstroTurf in the locker room, and we've got a net at the end of it. Now you're going to go back there for 20 minutes, and you're going to take the same penalty again and again and again. Then you're going to come out here in 20 minutes, and that penalty that you've been practicing back there for the last 15, 20 minutes, you're going to come out, you're just going to do it again. You're going to do it one more time. We've got our backup keeper, because he's not doing anything, because Pickford's there. The backup keeper is going to go with you back into the changing rooms, and you are just going to take that penalty again and again and again. And then you're going to come on and you're going to take it in real life. That's how you're going to do it.
Because you're going to be ready,
and in American football, that's what they do. They get ready to go and take that high pressure kick. And and they're ready for it. Whereas in with what Southgate did, there wasn't an opportunity.
Yeah.
But
that's just not the way football works. Yeah, but I don't understand why it couldn't be. Like you don't even have to be that clandestine about it. Have it back in the changing rooms. I guess that would help because the player would be practicing which side he prefers, left or right, and then you could just have one of the opposition subs watch it, and then when the penalty shootout comes, they say he seems to prefer to go to the left to the goalie. Yeah. But then Wembley is or any stadium that's got like a running track, but Wembley is so far away from the pitch to the fans that you could just have a goal on the side of the pitch and just do exactly that. Have them practicing their pens. But then I guess what happens if it hits the bar and cannons off onto the pitch? And, then you get all kinds of like referee for goodness sake, will you stop getting the ball onto the pitch? So that seems like a great idea that maybe. I don't understand, that could be implemented. Maybe not for 20 minutes, but maybe but have something backstage, quote unquote, where the players could properly warm up. And because it seems like the most of the warm up, there's a funny Lee Evans bit where he says the subs do nothing all game and then they do a little bit of a stretch on the sideline. The reason that they always sprint onto the pitch when they come on is because that's their warm up. They've done nothing, so they have to just run as fast as they can just to get their muscles going. But mentally and physically, I don't see how a player could adapt. The counterpoint to that is, as a professional footballer, how hard is it to kick a ball 12 yards into a net? And I understand that the human side of it is the event, the scale of it, the pressure.
Yeah. But they've spent the last 10 years telling us, Oh, and they've been working with sports psychologists to really get them. So when it comes to this moment, the sports psychologist has been preparing them for this moment for the last 5 years. That's why they won. So, okay, well, actually, we shouldn't blame Marcus Rashford for absolutely misplacing that penalty. We should be blaming the sports psychologist that's been getting him ready for it. Because that's the guy who said, now, when you do it, just envision yourself. You're by an ocean, and the fans are the waves of the ocean, and the goalkeeper is the water coming towards you, but you can repel that water, Marcus. Just put the ball where you want to go, like a ball bobbing on the ocean, they said. And then he hit the fucking post.
Yeah. And in a way, like that's like his style as well, that stuttery. He doesn't even look at the ball. He's looking at the goalie, and he does that. Yeah, so I don't know. 100 times he could have taken that penalty, and he has done for United, and he could score 98 of them. And the one of the two that he happens to miss happens to be in the Euro final. It's just this weird fluke of statistics that, could have nothing to do with his psychology or his physical, how warm his muscles is. It could just be something out of his control. I don't know. Who can say? Who can say? That's what a penalty shootout is for, and that's why when people say that it's been talked about, at least by FIFA or UEFA, about not having a penalty shootout to be a tiebreaker anymore, I'm kind of like, no, like I like how unpredictable and magical and chaotic a penalty shootout is, and it seems right that it is that way, because if you can't separate two teams out of 2 hours of football, then they've foregone their right to win by fair means, really. Yeah. And it has to come down to this fluky situation where anything could happen in order to separate them, because 11 against 11 clearly didn't work, and we can't stay here all night waiting for someone to fucking score. So I as much as it's heartbreaking when you lose, especially on the biggest stage, penalty shootout is what it is, and as all the pundits said, anyone can miss a penalty. Yeah, anyone can miss a penalty, but that doesn't mean that you forgive them for doing so. And it doesn't mean that you forgive Southgate for specifically bringing those players on to do that job, right? You don't forgive... You don't go, yeah, but anyone can miss a penalty. We lost the Euros finals on penalties, but anyone can miss a penalty. Yeah, granted, Southgate brought 3 of those 5 players onto the pitch almost exclusively for that reason. But anyone... So Southgate should be gone. No. I want him gone. I want him out. I want you know I don't like him. I want him out. That's it. I'm doing it, Dave. I'm firing Southgate. I'm firing Gareth Southgate. Ridiculous. That's the attitude of billionaire owners of clubs who we want to win the Premier League and the Champions League, and like Chelsea finish 3rd in the Premier League but win the Europa League, and they're like, that's it, you're fired. So, what? Yeah. Like, especially for a team that maybe has not done that for a few years. Like, you can't just Southgate should have the job for as long as he fucking wants to, unless we get knocked out of the group stages of the World Cup. then we can have this conversation again. I just want to say you can and you should forgive a player for missing a penalty. And Southgate, as he said himself, he is responsible for the choices he made and when he brought players on, and he's responsible for picking the 5 penalty takers based on who's been best in training. That's absolutely fine. That's completely on him. But you forgive a young man for missing a penalty in a final every time. No, if he's responsible for it, then how is he responsible for it? When someone says, I'm responsible for something, you do something in reaction to them being responsible. You don't go, yeah, sorry, that was my fault. I'm responsible for us losing the tournament in the final. That was all on me. And they go, yeah, don't worry about it then. Like, no. If you're responsible, then you have to take responsibility and act upon it. That doesn't mean he has to resign. Like, granted, he got us to the final, but okay, Gareth, you've taken responsibility for it. So what? What does that mean, you're responsible for it? What does that mean? If it had worked, all right, you would have been praised. But we didn't win. So what does that responsibility mean? What does it mean to us as a country for having lost it? That it's your fault.
If you say it's your fault, then fine. So what?
Well, yeah. So what? What do you want from him, and what do you want from this whole situation?
He should be fired, mate. He should be gone. But no, this is the problem with Southgate's time as an England manager, right? Is he's got us to the semi-final of the World Cup and the final of the Euros, but each time had the easiest possible stretch to get there. And that's been great for us because it's meant we've been able to see these young players do really well, grow into themselves, grow into the team, be successful. It's given us that hope as a country that, we can do well. You know, we're not losers in the quarterfinal. We can get to a semi-final. We can get to a final. We can get to the penalty shootout of a final. But every time we come up against major opposition, we're not ready for it. We were ready for Germany. Great, that's like the highlight of the tournament, that game. But we weren't ready for Croatia when they were at their best, but we were ready at them when they were at their eldest. We weren't ready for Italy, who were the best team of the tournament. But the whole thing we said was, but we've got these fast wingers and wing-backs. So they've got, all their defenders are over 34. 34 and older, they're centre-backs, so don't you even bloody worry about it, mate. Sterling and Mount and Shaw and Walker, Trippier, they're all going to get behind him. But what happens when we get drawn against Argentina in the group stages of the next tournament? What happens if we get drawn against Colombia again in the group stages of the next tournament? We got them in the World Cup. That was like a miracle. Are we going to be ready for South Korea? Who do we feel confident going against? We didn't feel that confident going against Denmark in the last game. So it's difficult to judge the strength and value of Southgate as a manager because you're judging him against the easy runs to get there, right? The World Cup, we got there until we were stopped by Croatia. Here we got to the final. That's amazing. But we did have elderly Croatia. We got stumped by Scotland. We got past Germany, and that was a miracle. But then Ukraine, you were like, I don't even know how Ukraine got out of the group stages. Right? And then we get to the final, and we have a test. There is a test of our quality. And we don't have it, right?
Yeah. I don't get the big deal. I get everything you were saying about, we got to the semi-final of the World Cup. Yeah, we got to the final of the Euros, but we lost. Yeah, there is no but. Those are all great things that far outweigh all of the negatives. Like, sure, maybe we had an easier run getting to the final, but we started to win those games. Oh, yeah. And as football is shown at any level, anyone can beat anyone. Nothing is guaranteed.
Oh, this tournament especially.
So, no, I don't accept any negativity around this thing on balance. Under South, especially when you compare Southgate's reign to every other English manager since Sir Alf Ramsey. Like, he's done better than, I don't even know how many people that is. How many managers and how many squads of players has Southgate bettered in the, 5 years since he's been manager? Like, he should be untouchable, really, in relation to England's footballing history. And who knows what happens at the next World Cup?
What would you, if you were going to guess on the success of England at the World Cup? How would you expect them to do? Given that they're always saying, but they're a young team. They're a young team. They're only going to get better. They said at the last tournament and at this tournament, and they'll say at the next tournament.
What's great about that is that the next tournament is only 18 months away. Right. So and because we did have such a young squad, Kyle Walker is our oldest player of this squad at 31. You could, barring any injuries, and maybe there were players who were left out because of injuries, you could lift this squad and drop them into Qatar 2022, and they'll all still be able to perform.
The Italians might not be in the same position.
No, but then again, Bonucci and Chiellini played every minute of their knockout games. How many of them went into extra time? Like the final did. The final did. The semi-final did. They beat Belgium in normal time. They had to go through extra time to beat Austria. So it's like this another one of these things that's changed in football recently is that it doesn't matter how old you are. Ronaldo, Goran Pandev, all these other aging, quote unquote aging players, Luka Modric. Like it doesn't matter anymore. Like if your combined age of your centre halves is 70, they were fucking immense. They were absolutely immense. Then we didn't have an answer for it, because we, instead of, like you said, putting our nimble guys up against, giving them the ball and go, now you run past Chiellini and Bonucci. We went hoof up to Harry Kane, see how many headers he wins against Chiellini and Bonucci. And I like to see the stat of that, but I bet it's about 1 out of the 20 that we attempted.
Well, I mean, you can see that because we didn't have any. We only had 2 shots on target.
Yeah, and Harry Kane's most influential part of the game was when he picked up the ball in the centre circle, splayed it out to Kieran Trippier, who crossed the ball to the back post, and Luke Shaw volleys that in. Which was, by the way, we should say that was a really great finish. Like, that is not easy to do.
Unbelievable. No.
Brilliant.
Incredible.
To watch it come all the way, keep it low in that tiny gap between Donnarumma and the post. Great finish. Yeah. But I don't know what else I was saying. But I do want to say that the game, it might have not got to penalties anyway if Federico Chiesa didn't go off injured. Because he was a fucking menace.
He really was.
Just ridiculous. And there's that really great scuffle he was having with Declan Rice, where they were just... Declan Rice just couldn't get it off of him. And then Chiesa gets a run on the defence, gets a really good low left foot shot that just goes wide. And if he'd been left to play the rest of the game, I think maybe they would have ended up scoring at least one more before the end of extra time anyway. But we got lucky there. So we got unlucky maybe with the penalty shout. We got unlucky with potential red cards that didn't go our way. But things went in our favour as well, and it still didn't make any difference. So, what you were saying about Southgate, it seems like the kind of negativity you might be to levy against him is weighed against or measured against we should be winning everything. Mm-hmm. Like if England are to win the World Cup and win the Euros, then he's failed. It's like, well, yeah, but sure, we weren't good enough to beat Italy, but that's because Italy were better, and we've been second best in some of the games, and maybe we scraped through, but that's because we can't and probably might never be the best at anything.
No, so but if we're second best against other teams and scraping through, it's not because of the players we have on the pitch, right? You look at the combined value of our players on the pitch, and granted, the prices are inflated because they play in the Premier League. Yeah, they all play in the Premier League, right? They all play for the best teams. The only 2 players on the pitch who don't play for someone that was either in the Europa League or the Champions League final, or who just won a major thing, was the 2 defensive midfielders who were probably 2 of the best players at the entire tournament. Right? So it's like Rice and Phillips. It's a real shame, actually, that they're not going to make it through to the UEFA team of the tournament. Because they did that amazing job where you don't even really notice them. But there's a reason that we're not conceding goals from open play. And it's just they were just incredible. Like Phillips, their partnership is a revelation. And what they are doing together is like what everyone always hoped that Lampard and Gerrard would be able... You've got these 2 amazing midfielders. I mean, imagine if they connect and the problem is that they all hated each other. But with Rice and Phillips, you can see, and with Stones and Maguire as well, and then you've got
great partnerships around.
Yeah, and it's like this. If this team of amazing players worth so much money that is utterly... Harry Kane on his own is worth more than £100 million. What does it take to make this team play positive football? And if it's on the manager, right?
I suppose
it's the manager's role to get this team to do it.
Yeah, and what I would love to see is England play first to last minute positive football and win 4-3. Or
right.
Yeah, maybe in a group stage or in a knockout game, maybe we try that against Germany or Spain or Italy, and we lose, but we go out playing good football. It's like in the Premier League, teams that are hovering around the relegation zone or in the bottom half of the league, but they don't quit playing the football they want to play, which is expansive and like Leeds, Calvin Phillips' Leeds, Marcelo Bielsa, like they never stopped playing positive passing, attacking football, even if it cost them some results, because that's the DNA that they want to ingrain. And if you're going to start doing that, you have to be consistent with it. Otherwise, it will go away, and you will end up reverting back to being negative. And you're right; it does start with the manager, and the manager sometimes needs to have a bit more courage and say, "Go out and smash them." Like don't be English and be like, if we do this right and we do this right, and occasionally go and do that, then we'll scrape through. I think England fans such as yourself, if I dare say, might fall in love with Southgate if he goes, you know what, you guys are some of the most talented footballers in the world and some of the most talented footballers of any England generation before you. Go and they talk about bringing joy to the nation with our football. Do it not just only in your results and how far you can get in tournaments, but in the way that you play as well. Like, make it exciting. Don't make it English.
Well, again, that's the thing, right? That's why Southgate was able to receive so much acclaim this tournament, was because they played boring, rigid football, but they scraped through each game, right? And like that results-driven, statistics-driven football works as long as you can dominate the game. But that doesn't work when you're against a team that is more dominant than you. And that's kind of you can play that kind of game against Ukraine, and then it turns on, and the magic happens. But you can't be hoping to scrape through against Italy.
It's like having clean sheets is all well and good, and that is not easy to do. Yeah. But let's see this as a stepping stone. Like, Southgate's clearly figured out how to defend.
Yeah,
like,
right.
That we know how to do. Okay, and that includes the two holding midfielders that you mentioned. They do a great amount of defensive work. Yeah. So that's set. And I feel like our back, Pickford's probably going to be our number one for a while. And whether we play a back four or back five, I think we all know who that's going to be. And then we know who our holding midfielders are. So that's a unit that you can basically leave untouched in preparation for the next World Cup. Now let's focus on the front players, like you said, and we need to get them ticking along, because the guys behind them clearly already know what they're doing.
Yeah. I think the other reason that I'm angry at Southgate is for that thing that I touched upon in the semi-finals episode, where I read that Financial Times article that was saying about Southgate's essay that he wrote, saying about how being English is it's about being we're proud to be English, we're proud to represent England, but we're going to continue to do what is necessary. Being proud of England doesn't mean that we don't critique the things that we see that are wrong. And a lot of pressure that was put on the victory here wasn't just it's coming home, it's coming home, but it didn't. It was also about proving that Southgate's vision of what England is like is correct. And that's the other reason that I'm so angry about all of this, is that with the loss came the torrent of racism that wouldn't have been expressed if we had won. Now, that's not to say that those people aren't racist. And that's not to say, oh, well, the England team deserved the racism because they lost the football. But that's obviously not true. But the weight that Southgate put on the team was, the further we go, the more we prove ourselves and our vision of what we are and who we are and representing ourselves, the more we prove that correct. And you can boo us while we take the knee, but that doesn't matter, because we're going to play the best football that we can and we're going to represent ourselves along the way. And so that loss hurts, because the response to that loss was so immediate and so catastrophic as to reveal everything as a lie. Right? And to reveal the vision of England as a lie. And it's stuff that we've spoken about before on this podcast and on other podcasts as well, where we said after Brexit, you said this on previous ones as well, where after Brexit, you had to take time to kind of reevaluate what it means to be English after that Brexit vote.
Yeah.
And so while I'm saying I'm angry at Gareth Southgate for losing this, it's not Southgate that is the one who is at fault, of course. In this situation, it's those fucking racist cunts. But Southgate allowed that lie to be exposed by losing the match. Right? If we win the match, or if Saka, Sancho, Rashford score those penalties, all those people who put fucking disgusting monkey chants and monkey emojis onto Saka's Instagram page all would have been on his Instagram page going, yeah, woo, Saka, hey, England. And instead, because we lost and Saka misses the penalty, it turns to racism like that. And that's not Saka's fault, and that's not Southgate's fault. But the lie of who we are as a country is exposed by that loss. And that lie would have been covered up and if we had won. And there was something in that article that I mentioned during the semi-final episode that was saying about France's win in 1998, when France had this multicultural team that won the World Cup in France in 98 with Zidane and Henry and Vieira. And they said the outpouring of being French was a transformational moment for racism within France. And it lasted for no time at all. 2012, London hosts the Olympic Games. The opening games are a display of what it means to be English. 2012, the rainbow flags everywhere. Gay marriage is legal now. What an exciting future there is for England. We praise the NHS in the opening ceremony. How's the NHS doing now? Actually, it's not great. Who was the mayor that profited from that future of an exciting, dynamic, open England? Well, it was Boris Johnson was the mayor of London during the London Olympics. And now, as a prime minister, he said, oh, the players who were kneeling are... And everyone who has profited off that lie is now exposed. And this comes back to something that we were saying earlier on, which is about the hypocrisy of this whole thing. And another Dan Carlin quote that I really enjoyed from that book I was listening to recently was Dan Carlin said, that's the kind of hypocrisy that Genghis Khan could drive a genocide through. And that is largely how I feel about the Conservative Party and this tournament, where they started the tournament by saying, players who kneel are doing gesture politics, says Priti Patel. Then Priti Patel wears the England shirt once England get into the semi-finals, gesturing her support for the England team. Then, after they lose, she goes into the House of Commons and says, this kind of racism online is unacceptable. Here is the Conservative Party bill that will ban racism online. And it's like, Genghis Khan could drive a genocide through the hypocrisy of the Conservative Party. It's just unbelievable. For them to be able to say, no, players shouldn't be kneeling. Why are you fans being racist after we've essentially allowed to support your racism? No, fans should be allowed to boo in the stadium. Fans should be booing. Fans can boo if they want. What do you mean they're being racist online? You can't have it both ways. Right? You can't say we are a free and open, tolerant society, which means we give free speech to anyone to say anything they want. And then also say, I can't believe you said that. You can't say, oh, no, the fans kneeling against racism. The players kneeling against racism. They're the ones who are being inappropriate. And then go, what are the fans doing being inappropriate against those players? And it goes back to Donald Trump. It goes back to all of this stuff, to all of it, and it's once again looking at England, right, and saying, why are we hated around the world? Why does everyone in Europe want us to lose? Well, it's because of Brexit. So thank you again for that, Boris Johnson. It's because when we go to other countries, we tear shit up. And those same fans that tear shit up boo the players for kneeling, cheer the players when they score, and then abuse them racistly online when they don't.
Yeah, and that's the point. That is the group of people that perpetrate all of this.
Yeah,
there's the same kind of attitude of loutish hooliganism abroad and at home, and feeling like being pissed off at an England player for missing a penalty is the same as putting monkey emojis on their Instagram page or defacing a mural of Marcus Rashford with racist words. That's the kind of mindset of that kind of person who thinks those two are akin and justified. And like I said before, they're the loudest people, and that is why our reputation is tarnished, because 60,000 people can attend a sporting event and however many thousands of people gathered outside, and if 100 people break through barriers to try and break into the stadium, and if 100 people boo for taking a knee, and if someone mugs Formula One driver Lando Norris on his way back to his McLaren, like, these are all the same kind of people, not necessarily the same individuals, but that is the mindset of that loutish hooliganistic kind of point of view, which is fucked up, because like you say, it does expose the lie of English patriotism. But then there's silver lining that comes afterwards quite often, with things that are deplorable, is that the good side of people, and the good side of British people in this case, can try and pave over these cracks caused by the noisy minority with the Rashford mural. So it's whatever is defaced of it is very quickly covered up, and then also very quickly local people come and start covering up the mural with messages of support and love and just great things that far eclipse what was negative stuff that was put on there in the first place. And that kind of gave me a little bit of hope. It was such a quick reaction of rage and vitriol from racist asshole people and criminals in defacing public property. But then that was also very quickly responded to with compassion and love and support and numerically that positivity was greater than the negativity that preceded it. But the weight of negativity versus positivity is debatable, and it's hard to know what hits harder. Is it the racist graffiti on a mural, or is it the positive response to that negativity? I don't know which is stronger.
Yeah, it's tough to say. And after the racism, especially against Saka, I went onto Saka's Instagram to look at it, and he had 68,000 comments, and I had to literally scroll down for 2 minutes before I found the racism once, right? So again, it was on the news. It was like, hey, there are 68,000 racist comments against Saka for missing that, which is not the case. And when I went down and found those, like the monkey emojis and stuff, I clicked on them, and they were accounts with 0 followers following 100 people, which suggests that either they're bot accounts, right? They're not real people, because they don't have friends following them, they don't have family following them. They've got 0 followers. Their whole thing is they follow 500 people, and then the bots do. You could easily say, oh, it was the Russians that did it. It's like, or it's somebody who has set up an anonymous account in which they are able to be racist, right? It's not people, like, it's not like your neighbor is using his regular Instagram account to go onto Saka's page and post racist, right? Even the people who are doing it, who know that they're wrong because they're anonymous account.
Yeah, they're protecting themselves, so they clearly know that there's a difference between amorality and immorality.
Yeah,
and this is people who know that it's an immoral, abhorrent thing to do, so they hide themselves behind a veil of anonymity instead of being like, no, this is how I feel, and
Yeah.
this is how I wish to express myself, and you can come and find me if you want because I stand by what I mean. It's cowardly little cretinous trolls is the word,
And
isn't it?
you could say that online, right? You can use that as an excuse, but when you get to things like the mural, you can't. And it only takes one person to go up there and deface the mural, right? That's the thing. It takes one person or a group of teenagers to be like, fucking Rashford missing that penalty. That's the mural's up the road. Let's go. Yeah, that'll get him back. He missed it for our country. We're going to go get rid of that thing of his giant face. But again, it's that thing of our country is both Southgate's view of what the country can be, and England is Boris Johnson's enablement of that kind of hate. Boris Johnson and Priti Patel's encouragement of what this country is as well. And, we saw it with Trump. We see it here. England fans. And that's why we're not allowed to have flags outside our houses. Right? It's why people don't want to put the England flag outside their house during tournaments. And
because you're seen as being it's racist to put up a St George's cross, but not to put up a Union Jack because it's it's inclusive of the whole of the UK. Actually, as a weird aside, I used to work with a guy who seemed fairly normal, but he had a tattoo on his arm of what was clearly meant to be the British Isles, but it was purposefully omitting the rest of the United Kingdom. So it was only the geographical outline of England,
right,
and then it was filled in with a St George's cross. And I asked him, I was like, "Oh, how come you just gone for the England and not British?" He's like, "Well, I'm not fucking British. I'm English."
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of a guy with you would see him as being a bit more of a sort of a grungy sort of type guy, not like your typical stereotypical hooligan type, but he was overtly aggressively patriotic to the point where he hated the rest of Britain. And it's just I don't get that. That's the same kind of mentality, isn't it? It's just like I don't care what similarities we may have. If you're not me and the people that I identify with, then fuck you.
Yeah, I think that's another difficult part about being English during this tournament as well, is that we've seen Wales and Scotland play, and we wanted Wales and Scotland to do well, right? We want the British teams to do well.
Definitely.
And then what was the why? Like, why did we kind of go, no, let's fucking destroy Scotland in this game? Well, it's because the Scottish hated us, and it was like, oh my god. And I think it's a thing with being English is recognizing that essentially everybody in the world hates you, everybody in Europe hates you, and now you also have to hate yourself. And the only people you're not allowed to hate are the ones who miss the penalties, and that causes a difficult set of rules as well, doesn't it? So, those players have been through a ridiculous test.
Yeah.
And again, to have to represent the country. I mean, that's not to say that other countries aren't like this, but I'll leave this as a final thing as we kind of come towards the end. As soon as this ended, Boris Johnson was there saying, we should be hosting the 2030 World Cup. We think England and the British Isles has a strong case to host the World Cup in 2030. And immediately, I think it was Anton Ferdinand, actually, who famously faced racism in his playing career, said, if we can't get racism in order in this country, we shouldn't be allowed to host the 2030 World Cup. And that causes quite a difficult discussion, because what does that mean, firstly, if we can't get our house in order, right? How do you qualify when the country is suitably non-racist and therefore able to host the World Cup? are countries like Russia and Qatar morally superior to us because their fans don't expose their own players to racism online? Are we okay with allowing Russia and Qatar to host the World Cup, but we're not? And if FIFA were to say that, what would that mean? If FIFA was to say, no, the racism expressed by England fans is so great that we're not going to allow you to host the 2030 World Cup, what does that mean for us in comparison to the morality of Russia and Qatar?
I guess it would be if they then retroactively went, and because we've come to this decision now, we look back on some of our decisions in the past and think maybe we shouldn't have given the World Cup to Russia and Qatar, or if they don't acknowledge the past at all, then then that's an issue.
Yeah. And what if they decide to give it to China? What if they say, yeah, I know that you've got literal genocide, but the England fans are being racist online, and so we can't. This kind of goes back to our discussion about Hungary and the flags, right? Should Hungary be allowed to host another game at the Euros, considering how the fans acted with rampant homophobia in Hungary? Should they be allowed to host it again? Should England? And to my mind, the only way is to anyone who bans another team's national anthem, because that's fucking disgusting on its own. How insanely disrespectful for countries to come to your stadium to play you and then boo their national anthem. That's gross on its own. But to be an England fan and go and watch England play, you have to be a part of the members club, right? The England members club. Something you can't just buy a ticket, I think. Is that right?
I think you have to sign up with UEFA if it's, for example, if it's a European government thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you should never be allowed to go and see another international game. Straight up. Like there's no doubt. Shouldn't be allowed to go and see another football game. Ever.
But then how do you police that? You need like some super sci-fi Big Brother style CCTV where every single person's face is monitored, and if they're booing during a national anthem of the opposing team, that's it, struck off, you're never coming again.
Yeah. That's the good news about doing it in China, Dave. Do it in China, they'll get everyone catalogued for you.
Yeah. The thing is, racism is not an English problem, it's a human problem.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
To eliminate entire countries or stadiums or teams based on home racism or discord, then you might as well just stop football altogether, or any international sporting event just can't take place because every country is fucked up and that's the truth of it. And I am often, and I think I probably have been on this podcast, very down on human beings as a species, but I just think that the whole planet is full of I don't even know how to articulate it anymore, to be honest.
Do you know the only country that's come out of this smelling like roses is the mayor of Munich and Germany. And that's it. And that's, kind of exactly what we were talking about in that episode.
Yeah, the only way you come out smelling of roses is if you manipulate the system to make you look good.
Yeah. I don't know if we should allow ourselves to host the World Cup in 2030. I don't know. Not that it would make much of a difference to us.
No,
right?
But it's different if we apply and FIFA say no for whatever of these reasons. But then if the English FA or the English government go, you know what, we are not going to bid because we feel like we have inherently ingrained social problems that we need to fix as a country before we are going to put ourselves on that global stage. Because it won't look good. Like if England hosted the World Cup and then... Because the abuse against England players online is huge news in England. Probably not as big news in the rest of the world. But if we are hosting a World Cup and English players are getting abused online, probably foreign players are going to get abuse online as well, then that does shine a spotlight that the entire planet will see, and then we as a nation look like the loutish hooligans who go smash up restaurants and pubs in foreign countries during tournaments, because we're basically all the same as far as the world's concerned.
Yeah. Imagine if we host the World Cup and then you boo every country that comes to play. Why would you even bother going as another country? If you're Brazil and you've flown all the way to Brazil and they play the Brazilian national anthem and the English fans boo you the entire way through, why would you even... Every time England go and play abroad now, when they go and play in Germany, the German fans are going to boo them. When they go and play in Croatia, the Croatian fans are going to boo them. Right, when they go play in Denmark, we booed Denmark during the Danish national anthem. Denmark, Dave, the team of the tournament. Those same fans who 3 weeks before had been like, Christian Eriksen is such a great player and I can't believe that this has happened to football. Boo the country that he plays for. If Eriksen had been there, they would have been booing him. They'll boo bloody anything.
It's just a very easy way of voicing yourself, isn't it? It's just a sound you make that everyone can join in on, and it's just this weird communal, catching, infectious thing, isn't it? Because I'm not sure. I don't think it's a case of booing a national anthem isn't meant to be hateful. I don't think. I think it's just some childish. They're the opposition, so let's just fuck with their national anthem because it's annoying. I don't feel like many people are like booing, going, yeah, fuck these guys, they're scum, fucking kill them. I think they're just like, you suck, boo, hiss. And like when the goalie goes to take a goal kick and they go, you fat bastard. It's just like some stupid, what's the word I'm looking for, sort of tribal rallying call, I think. But it's still disrespectful, and I'd rather it didn't happen. I think sport should be a celebration. Like if you watch rugby, no one's booing the national anthem in rugby.
No one's booing them in cricket. No one's at Wimbledon booing them. No one boos the opposing Danish snooker player. When the darts teams come on, no one boos the Irish darts player.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, is that
no one boos the hockey team.
Yeah.
When the basketball teams come on, when the basketball team comes on, nobody's booing them.
I guess, I think the thing with football is proportionately, football has the largest proportion of dickhead fans of any sport in the whole world. Of any sport, I think there are more dickheads who go to football games than there are who go to anything else. And it's a shame because it's still a proportion, it's still a minority, but as I keep saying, minorities are louder than majorities. I don't know what, especially if it's a negative minority. Well, only if it's a negative minority are they louder than the quiet, respectful majority.
Well, it's been 9 years since the Olympics, and this is the first major sporting tournament that we've held in the country since then. And that's 9 years where the country has gone from probably its pinnacle, I would say, of cultural power, where other countries had Union Jacks on their mopeds, or people would look at England and be like, this is a progressive, forward-thinking country that's working towards something, right? Maybe it hasn't reached gender equality, racial equality, sexual equality, but it's moving in that way and it's proud to do so. And 9 years later, it's like we've fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, because of football fans. Because
I think
at the Olympics, no one was booing the national anthems at the Olympics, were they?
No.
No one was racially abusing Olympians on social media.
No. But the person who led both of those events is the same man. And if you hear the mayor of London talking about the Olympics and talking about people in 2012, and you hear him talking about people now, it's a very different scenario. And the country has to take a good, strong look at itself and go, what the hell happened to us over the last 10 years? And Boris Johnson has got to carry a lot of responsibility because he might not be a racist football fan, but he's an enabler and an encourager. And, women in burqas look like letterboxes. Isn't that fun? It's like a Top Gear joke. Yeah, Jeremy Clarkson can get up on that fucking bandwagon as well. Well, Dave, this is the last episode of the Euros. And we've ended on a very England note, which is fair. England got to the final. But forgetting this final match, the whole way through the tournament, we were saying, this tournament's been unbelievable. What a tournament this has been. The group stages were incredible. The round of 16 was some of the best football that we've seen. The Danish story. This is the story of Denmark, to lose your player like that, to lose your first 2 games and then get to the semi-final. France going out. Italy versus Belgium in the quarter-final. Like, that could have been literally could have been the final, and we got it so early on. What a tournament it was. And it's a shame that it has to leave such a sour taste in our mouths now, at this point. Because it was an incredible month for me. And I'm going to miss it every day from now until forever.
Yeah, that was the weird thing about yesterday, being Monday after the final, is that it was like, okay, well, what do I do now?
Yeah, what do I do with my evenings?
Yeah, and before that, it was when you were staying around with me, it was, well, we've got the morning and then the football starts at 2, so then there's the rest of our day sorted. So yeah, it's weird to try and think of what to do with our days now, because I'm not working, and so I've got to fill my own time. I wish this tournament had ended at the semi-finals now, to be honest. Yeah. I think that was the last thing I remember kind of enjoying, and not necessarily because of the football, because a football match is a football match, and whatever happens, and it's out of my control. So I never was really emotionally invested in it. So when you messaged me after the final saying you were so angry, yeah. and I said I envy your passion, because I was never emotionally invested enough to be heartbroken by it, to be angry about it. It didn't matter enough to me for me to have any kind of emotional reaction. And I think that's just dissipated as the tournament's gone on. It's been less and less exciting for me. And I don't know why that is, but
it's because I left.
Yeah, I think that was that's definitely a big part of it. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so there was some amazing games of football and some amazing moments, and there was plenty of controversy and external to football kind of things to talk about, which some of it was exciting and added to the spectacle of it, and a lot of it was detracting and negative, which is a shame, but that sadly that's kind of to be expected. But yeah, I guess all because of what has happened since Sunday night, mm-hmm. It has left a sour taste, and I don't know, yeah, kind of glad that it's over, because maybe things will quieten down in the country now, and hopefully the public health fallout won't be another thing for us just to get stressed and worried about now, because of decisions made by the people who shouldn't be making those kind of decisions, I suppose. But I don't want to end on a complete downer, because a lot of it was great. So much of it was great, and this is kind of this actually falls into my whole kind of ethos, is that the stuff that was bad is really hard to ignore, and it's upsetting. But there was so much that was good. Like, so numerically, way more good stuff happened and exciting stuff happened, and it was a spectacle and a festival of football for a long time. So it's a sad thing about living in the modern world, that we have to really focus on the positive in order to enjoy things, because the negative stuff is so in your face and so loud. Yeah,
well, let me go and get my wall chart that I've been diligently filling in. Well, fooling. I've been a fool the entire way. I've been filling in my wall chart. And what I did is I put an asterisk next to every game I thought was incredible. So now we'll get it, and we have a chance to think back on those memories of what was an incredible tournament.
Okay, eye to piece. This is a good time.
Yeah, okay, let's go. So, here we go. Memories of the tournament. Group A. Of course, we opened and closed with the remote control car. I don't know if you noticed though, Dave, the remote control car for the final had a rainbow flag on it.
I did notice.
VW, only progressive when it's profitable to do so. But Italy v Turkey, the 3-0 opening game. Italy looked strong that from the beginning. You know, they pretty much dominated that group the whole way through. Switzerland, again, we weren't sure what they were going to do, but they delivered hugely as the tournament went on. Group B, Denmark, Finland, Belgium, Russia. Belgium come out of the gate with a 3-0 drubbing of Russia. Denmark against Finland, of course. The moment that we were both literally in tears with Christian Eriksen. But then I think the two defining games of that group was Belgium-Denmark and then Denmark-Russia, which both have asterisks next to them. Belgium-Denmark, where Denmark scored almost immediately and then just played unbelievable football for the first half, really. The first 30 minutes, 45 minutes, just dominated that game completely. Belgium was shell-shocked.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah. And then Denmark-Russia, where it didn't look like Denmark were going to be able to get through because they'd just lost both of their previous games. They were bottom of the table. The only way they could get through was to absolutely destroy Russia. So they won 4-1 and they got through.
They did it. Yeah, and it was helped out by Denmark beating Finland, but very late on.
Yeah, that was a really, really incredible game. Group C, Austria, Netherlands, Ukraine, North Macedonia, boys.
Your boys.
They were a real highlight, I thought, of this tournament. And it's crazy to think that was also from this tournament because it feels like so long ago now. It does, at this point. But yeah, Goran Pandev and the North Macedonians putting up a hell of a display, I thought.
Yeah, they definitely. We spoke about it at the time, but they definitely did their country proud. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got an asterisk here by the Netherlands versus Ukraine, which was their first game, both of their teams' first games. It's a 3-2 win for the Netherlands. Again, because we've watched so many games at this point, I don't remember exactly what happened there. But
don't you?
No. Do you?
Yeah, well, yeah, I remember it because we were watching that one together and it was a 0-0 for a long time and it wasn't until the 52nd minute where Netherlands finally scored and then scored again really quickly.
Yeah.
And it was looking like they were going to just walk away with it, but then Ukraine came back and scored 2 in the 75th and the 79th minute and we were celebrating like, get in there, Ukraine, like it was a great turnaround. But then Netherlands snatched it right at the end. Denzel Dumfries.
Yeah.
That was a really exciting game.
Yeah,
probably one of the most exciting up until that point.
Yeah. Going over to Group D, England, Croatia, Scotland, Czech Republic. Virtually no exciting games from England at this point in the group stages, I don't think.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I've got a little note here by England, Scotland. It says, worst game ever. Next to it. But the Czech Republic did amazingly in those group stages.
I was going to say that there weren't actually any good games of football in that group, I don't think. The most you could say is that the Czech Republic's game against Scotland, where the Schick scored from 50 yards and then with a really great header, that was probably the highlight of the whole group. Really, it wasn't all that interesting. Yeah,
I've got Group E. There's no asterisks here either. Poland, Slovakia, Spain, and Sweden. Spain beat Slovakia 5-0. And after that, I kind of said that was the most boring 5-0 win I've ever seen. Where it wasn't that Spain were good; it was that Slovakia just kind of collapsed, which was kind of crazy because they beat Poland, they played well against Sweden, and then just couldn't couldn't keep it up. Sweden beating Poland 3-2 to send Poland out of the tournament, I guess, at that point. But famously, Dave, the group of F, lattes for everyone.
That intern. I wish we could find out their name so we could send them a latte ourselves.
Yeah, France, Germany, Portugal, Hungary. I mean, this had some incredible games in it. It wasn't just that the group was tough, but some of the games here were unbelievably good.
There were some classics in this, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, with Hungary holding Portugal to 0-0 until the 80th minute, and then Ronaldo suddenly turning on and scoring 2 goals, and then Portugal come away with that 3-0 after, Hungary hold them the whole game. Germany v Portugal. Germany win 4-2. Hi, boys, we're here. But again, the Germany winning 4-2 because Portugal scored 2 own goals. A crazy, crazy match. And then possibly, definitely in contention for the best night of football of the entire tournament. Portugal, France, Germany, Hungary. Where through that entire night, the table, every possible combination of that table was explored at some point throughout those games.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a really exciting. That was one of the few days of the tournament where you couldn't decide which game to watch, and then whatever game you were watching, it was constantly flashing to the corresponding game because things were moving around so much. At one point, we thought Hungary maybe were even going to make it through, but Germany breaking their hearts again right at the death in the 84th minute. But yeah, that was. I guess the 3 teams that you expect to go through went through, but they all had to fight for it. It was not a walk for any of them.
Yeah, at some time in that night, Portugal were first in the group, second in the group, third in the group, and fourth in the group. Like, that's how crazy it was. And I think they ended third in the group, didn't they? They went through to the next round, yeah. Which brings us to the last 16. I've got an asterisk next to Wales-Denmark. Wales, they got out, but then Casper and the boys just dominated completely, a 4-0 victory.
Yeah, it never really was in doubt, which was a shame because I thought Wales were maybe going to repeat their heroics from 2016, but yeah, they just didn't. They couldn't match what Denmark brought, both footballing wise and in terms of their spirit. So it's a shame. It's a shame that Wales came up against Denmark, really, but Denmark deserved it big time.
Yeah,
smashed them.
They did. I've got an asterisk next to Italy-Austria, which was a 2-1 win for Italy in extra time. A lot of tension there. There was another game in Wembley. The Czech Republic beat the Netherlands in an 2-0 upset in Budapest. Just crazy. Belgium beat Portugal 1-0, which I have a little note here that says Ronaldo didn't get his record. Ronaldo was 1 goal off becoming the highest international goal scorer of all time or something like that. And all he had to do was score a goal, and he didn't.
Not yet. I mean, it's going to happen.
It's going to. It's going to. Yeah, but that was a kind of a crazy night for Belgium. Then I have a giant circle around 2 games here for what a night: Croatia, Spain, France, Switzerland. Croatia, Spain goes into extra time. The last 10 minutes are crazy, and then in extra time, Spain win 5-3. That was 10 goals in 2 games for them. Just ridiculous.
Yeah, with that goal from the world's most overrated striker, Alvaro Morata, which made me kind of squinch up my face like, oh, fucking shit.
Yeah.
It was, the last 15 minutes were crazy, with Spain going, 3-1 up in the 77th minute, and then Croatia getting 2 in the last 5 minutes to equalise to get extra time. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. And then France, Switzerland. Oh!
What a shocker.
Oh. That was incredible. Pogba, amazing goal in that game.
Oh, yeah.
France actually, the first half was an absolute travesty. And then the beginning of their second half was unparalleled. But Switzerland never gave up, and they came through. They came through to win it, which was
Yeah, same as Croatia, really.
Incredible.
2 goals in the last 10 minutes to draw it equal, and then scored all 5 of their penalties to see them through.
Yeah, that's why this one's got a giant circle that has an Owen Wilson around it. So that's really great.
Kylian Mbappe, wow.
Oh, not for Mbappe. He didn't get a goal all tournament, did he?
No.
That's a negative wow for Mbappe. Wow. England 2. Germany fucking 0, mate. I've got a love heart on this one.
Again, seems like a long time ago now when we were riding on a cloud of English pride, but it's been expunged slightly since then.
Yeah, it has, That was a big one, though, and we said at the time we could feel happy and proud because we got the second goal. Harry Kane got his goal. And it being 2-0 and Harry Kane getting the goal meant, oh my God, England can score goals. What? Didn't last for very long. It lasted into the next game, but not beyond that one. But that was a great game. That the highlight of the tournament for being English, probably. More so than the semi-final, even though, we dominated that game. And then the next game, Ukraine-Sweden. Extra time. Ukraine beat Sweden 2-1.
Another surprise, And to score in the injury time of extra time to win it that's dramatic. That was a big moment in the tournament.
Yeah. The quarterfinals, a crazy penalty shootout between Switzerland and Spain where nobody can put it in the back of the net, but Spain go through. Spain very, very, very weak from the penalty spot. It's a shame that England didn't learn something from them there, but a real shame for Switzerland.
They were bad, weren't they? And I think they missed one in open play as well at some point. Maybe they were lucky that they got their goals in extra time against Croatia. Did not get there, but they scored 3 of their 5 penalties. It was Switzerland who only scored their first one and missed 3 in a row, which kind of did them in.
That's heartbreaking. Italy, Belgium. The game was Italy went through. That's pretty much it.
I called it. I just want to say that I really thought Italy were going to win that, and they did.
And you were right.
I was right about something.
Unfortunately, damn you, Dave. Denmark beat the Czech Republic 2-1 to go through. Good game. But England 4, Ukraine 0. I've got an asterisk here that says, what a game. Glory to the heroes.
Yeah, so you said goodbye to your heroes there, but at least it was a good game of football.
Yeah, well, I said goodbye to those heroes, and then in the next round, I had to say goodbye to another set of heroes as England beat Denmark 2-1. A great display there by Denmark. It was a shame to see them go out, but,
In retrospect now, I wonder if I would have preferred if England lost in the semi-final now.
Yeah, if we lost to Denmark, we would have felt less bad about it.
Would have felt okay, yeah. Then I would have been rooting probably stronger for Denmark in the final than I was for England, weirdly. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But, I think England deserved to win there, and Kane gets another goal, and we got to see a great free kick. We hadn't seen a single direct free kick scored in the whole tournament up until that point, and it was a right peach. I thought some of the criticism of Pickford was a bit harsh around that goal. I think it was just a really perfectly struck free kick, really. If it goes over the wall.
Pickford concedes 2 free kicks in 2 games back to back. That's something. Do you think that's something to be a little bit?
What do you mean?
Didn't he concede the free kick against Italy?
Was it a free kick or was it a corner? But it was. He saved the initial header from the cross and onto the post, and then Bonucci tapped it in. So that's not really his fault. But no, I don't blame him at all. I think if you can hit a free kick up and over the wall and back down again, you just have to hold your hand up because the wall is there to defend one side of the goal, and the goalie stands on the other side, so that there's the options to the guy striking the ball. Either you get it up and over the wall, which is not easy, or you hit it the goalie side and hope he fluffs it. But he didn't. He got it up and over, which is impressive, especially for him as at the age he was. Damsgaard.
Oh yeah, Damsgaard, just incredible. Yeah,
one of the players of the tournament.
To come on, absolutely. Maybe the player of the tournament, considering he came on to replace Christian Eriksen, and what an unbelievable job he did.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk. I want to get onto the players of the tournament after we talk about this, but yeah, it's a shame that he didn't come out on top of that one, really.
Yeah, Italy, Spain, boring game. Italy win on penalties, 1-1. And then, speaking of Italy winning 1-1 and then going through to penalties, Italy-England, where we had a glorious 30 minutes at the beginning of the game. And now it's 55 years of hurt. 55 years of hurt.
And counting.
And counting. The players of the tournament.
Yeah.
The Dark Lord of the Dark Dimension, Dormammu, won Player of the Tournament.
Yeah.
I think it's somewhat unfair considering that he's an omnipotent being and intends to enslave and destroy humanity.
I don't fucking buy that at all.
From the very beginning, we said that he was doing an incredible job here. And I think the reason he gets it is because he saves three. He saves those penalties.
Yeah, I don't like that. I really don't like that where just because it's the most recent thing that he's done that it goes in his favour.
No, but right, okay. So he gets a clean sheet against Turkey. He gets the clean sheet against Switzerland. He gets the clean sheet against Wales. He concedes against Austria. He saves the penalty that Lukaku takes in their match, because the reason Belgium didn't go to 2-2 is because Lukaku's penalty was missed or saved. He wins a penalty shootout against Spain in the semi-final, and then a penalty shootout in the final. If he's your keeper, you have to kind of be like, holy cannoli.
I guess, all right, you make a pretty good case.
But
I don't like some of his attitude, I think, in the semi-final. Yeah. But no, to be fair, he was really good. But I think like maybe we are not prejudiced. Maybe we are. We do have favourites, and I was thinking like if you're going to pick a goalkeeper from this tournament, why don't you pick Kasper Schmeichel? And I know that
you goddamn right.
Yeah, but then I guess you're right. It's the final, and they always the player of the tournament always goes to someone who's in the final. Whether it's the losing captain like Modric at the World Cup or
Messi
whatever.
in the previous
or Messi. So I don't know. The player of the tournament, I mean, probably okay. I will concede that goalkeeper of the tournament is between. He probably just pips Kasper. Fair enough. And
he literally pips him by a round.
And
and Denmark lost 2 games at the beginning of the tournament. Right.
So fair enough. And I've been looking at the UEFA team of the tournament and the Guardians team of the tournament, and they both picked Donnarumma. So all right, okay, fine, let him have it.
Okay, but who's your player of the tournament?
My player of the tournament? Oh gosh, I don't know.
Who would be your England player of the tournament?
It would be Calvin Phillips, Luke Shaw. Those two over Raheem Sterling. Although I do think he was one of our better players. I'd like to pick a whole back five, really.
Yeah,
but one of those two, I suppose. How about you?
Yeah, I think Luke Shaw is probably my player of the tournament. For England, just because the amount he did was just was unparalleled, and I didn't feel like that thing with Raheem Sterling. Whereas if you had replaced Raheem Sterling, could somebody else have done more? As we spoke about before, like Raheem Sterling statistically, which is what Southgate loves anyway, is the statistics. But statistically, Sterling played probably the best as an England player. But watching Sterling play was very frustrating for me. Whereas if you replace Sterling with Grealish, for example, maybe Grealish could make more happen. Maybe he doesn't. But you replace Shaw and the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, you only replace Shaw with Trippier to counteract a particular opposition threat.
Yeah.
And then we had Ben Chilwell, who was our backup. We didn't see a minute of game time. So, I think I could definitely make a case for Luke Shaw there. Do you know who got Young Player of the Tournament?
No, who was it?
It was Pedri, the Spain midfielder.
Right.
which I've actually been really impressed with him. And he's 18 years old, and he played, I think he played every game, and he was very composed and cultured. He looked like he belonged in that midfield. So I get that. This is who I wonder whether it would have been it would have been justified giving it to Damsgaard.
Yeah, for me, he was the young player. I was like, oh my God, who is this guy?
Yeah, and so it's a bit of a shame, especially after everything that Denmark went through. But maybe you're not supposed to, give favours. Or I don't know if there's like an age restriction because he's 21 and Pedri's 18. Okay. I don't know, but so it would have been a bit of a. I think it would have been nice to give it Damsgaard, and both of them are just as worthy. I would have said.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you want to go through the UEFA team of the tournament, and you can let me know what you think?
Yeah, I've seen it, so okay. I'm ready to go, and I've got thoughts.
All right, so we've already mentioned Donnarumma, goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Fine. They've gone for a back four.
Yeah.
And the first one that no one will argue with, I don't think, unless you're a massive Luke Shaw fan. Spinazzola, left back, absolutely. Kyle Walker at right back, which, I mean, I personally think defensively he was brilliant. We would have suffered without him, absolutely. Yes. But his forward play let him down a little bit in his passing and his ball retention.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I wouldn't put him as my right back in this list because in a four at the back as a right back, he was dodgy. However, as the person on the right at three in the back, he was unbeatable.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the difficult thing. I would quite happily move him in the middle and then stick Luke Shaw out on the right for this team. Just because we got two left backs doesn't mean they don't deserve to be players of the tournament.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Then the UEFA have gone for Harry Maguire and Bonucci as centre halves, and I guess in terms of the best defenders in the tournament, you can't really.
Well, considering Harry Maguire didn't turn up until the last 16, that seems somewhat unfair.
I suppose, yeah. He's played less minutes, but his influence and his ability. 4 games,
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a fair point. I mean, the Guardian went for Kyle Walker and Luke Shaw, but then they went for Bonucci and Chiellini as...
Yeah, that seems... Yeah, that's
and if you're picking an effective defensive unit, you probably would definitely pick those two because their bromance is kind of adorable. Obviously their team as a team unit, they are basically impenetrable as we've seen.
Yeah. Who have we got in midfield?
Midfield, they've gone for what sort of system are they going for? I think they've gone for a 4-3-3 with Højbjerg, the Danish holding midfielder, alongside Jorginho of Italy and Pedri of Spain.
Okay. Well, Pedri gets the young player of the tournament, so I guess he has to be in there, doesn't he?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah. Jorginho, they won the tournament, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was really good, but I don't know. I think if I really looked back, I think you could maybe pick some better midfielders. Yeah. He was so tenacious and he made things happen for the team. He kept them ticking. Probably should have got a red card in the final, but who's to say? Who's to say? And yeah, like you say, Pedro's got to go. Højbjerg is a nice addition because I think he was really good. But then that means you're omitting Declan Rice, Calvin Phillips. I think they were better in that position. But maybe we're biased. But the Guardian did a similar thing with Pedri and Jorginho, but they picked Calvin Phillips ahead of Højbjerg. And then they've gone for a front three of maybe somewhat controversially Chiesa, which I wouldn't argue with.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable. I don't think he even started the tournament as their preferred choice, but he quickly solidified that. Raheem Sterling on the other side, which again, it's nice to see him there, but I don't think he was one of the two best wide attacking players in the tournament by any means. And then they're gone as Lukaku as their centre forward.
That's a weird call.
It is a weird call because, I mean, he's great. He's a world-class striker, but he definitely didn't show his best in this tournament, especially the longer it went on. He scored a few goals in the beginning, but I feel maybe that's... if you're picking a front three, that's a pretty deadly front three, but I don't necessarily think he deserves it.
No, who's in the Guardian one?
They put Patrick Schick as their centre forward.
Well, that seems fair. He scored more goals than Lukaku.
He did, and no one expected him to. He scored 5 goals that equalled Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Ronaldo only gets the golden boot because Ronaldo got an assist as well.
Okay. So why is Ronaldo not in that front three?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to pick the best players,
So
Ronaldo.
it should be Schick, Ronaldo, and
Chiesa. Did you still pick Chiesa?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, did the Guardian... Let's see. The Guardian picked substitutes, but the UEFA haven't.
Okay.
The Guardian's substitutes are Kasper Schmeichel.
Yeah.
Joachim Mæhle, the Danish left back, which I think is a great shout. He was great. And if it wasn't for really Shaw and Spinazzola, I think he probably would have been the standout. So that makes sense. They went Harry Maguire on their bench because they went for the Italian centre halves. They put Mikkel Damsgaard in there, which is great. Can't argue with that.
Yeah.
And then there's someone I'll come back to, but they've put Benzema as well on the bench, which I think is a decent shout. Like, he definitely ignited France, and they might have been worse off without him, especially since Mbappe wasn't firing and they didn't start the tournament that great.
Yeah.
So fair. But then the one I really have a contention with, and I think it's just because they won, is Marco Verratti.
That seems strange.
I think that's strange. Yeah. I think, again, I don't think he necessarily started the tournament in the starting 11, and maybe because of injury or he wasn't particularly fit. But no, I don't think he deserves to be there ahead of a lot of other players. He's just a bit. He definitely got better as the tournament went on, and I think he was a bit lacking in fitness because he was taken off after an hour, and I think he only played 90 minutes the last couple of games. But he's a bit of a Jorginho number 2, except Verratti's a bit more dirty. Just gets more yellow cards and is more of a nuisance. But I think that on the whole, that's a pretty fair bench. Verratti's the only one I would contend. But
okay,
I mean, that's a pretty good.
Some players of the tournament, just to give them a final shout out before we start. Kasper Schmeichel, no doubt. Top babe, top player.
If you're going to call him out as well, I think you've also got to call out Simon Kjær, the Danish captain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially for that own goal he scored. That was great.
Well, that was one. Yeah, I mean, if he hadn't scored that, I think is it Sterling right behind him? He's going to tap it in anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kjær for his leadership, and for him and Kasper as a pair of leaders in that first Finland game with the Christian Eriksen incident, they deserve plaudits not only for their footballing performance throughout the tournament, which was great, but also just as people, as human beings, they were exemplary.
Yeah. Goran Pandev.
Shout out Goran.
Shout out to Goran Pandev for not necessarily being the best player at the tournament, but he led that team through adversity, and he led them through proudly, and he is a genuine hero.
Fair play.
Yeah, and that's always that's amazing to see. Kevin De Bruyne as well, for coming back from injury and then absolutely changing everything in every game that he played.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and then again to my man Thorgan Hazard as well, for everyone being like, well, we're going to play him at wing back so he can play his older brother further up the pitch. And then Thorgan Hazard gets 2 goals, I think, in the tournament, and Edin, I don't think, gets any.
No.
A silent tournament for him, but De Bruyne again played, just came on and swapped, especially in that game against Denmark. Denmark were controlling the game, and then De Bruyne came on, and then
he just goes, all right, we're going to play my way now, and he changes the entire team. He does the same for Man City when he's on the ball. He's just world class player that can change tournaments, not just games.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of unfair not to give a shout out to Jack Grealish as well, for knowing exactly what it is he has to do, and then he comes on and he does it.
Yeah,
and
when he's given enough time to.
Yes, and he didn't complain. He didn't say, I should be starting games. He came on when he was told to, And England played a whole lot more fun to watch when he was on the pitch. And we saw that in extra time as well in the final, where England in extra time pushed and did what they should have been doing for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was just too late. But he is that difference maker. And,
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And again, Calvin Phillips, he's in the teams. He should be, because what an amazing tournament he's done, and what a way of showing himself to the world.
Yeah, what a couple of years. Like coming up from the Championship with Leeds, having a great first season in the Premier League, and then becoming a regular in the England team and playing nearly every minute of the Euros all the way to the final. Yeah, amazing. And it'll be interesting to see what if he stays at Leeds or if a bigger team comes in for him. Same with I'm a West Ham fan and a Saints fan, so Declan Rice I'd love to see stay at West Ham, but he's probably easily our best player, so there's been a lot of transfer speculation that he'll move on, which won't be surprising, but you better hope we get money for him. Some good money for him. I guess you can also shout out some people like Emil Forsberg, Swedish player who somehow scored 4 goals, got close to the Golden Boot. No one was expecting that, and Sweden did remarkably well. So good on him. But yeah, I guess we've given props where props were due. We should have scumbags of the tournament.
Go on then.
Marko Arnautovic.
Yeah, there he is.
Probably
Flip the bird of that
one.
Motherfucker. Scumbag number 1, Arnautovic. Scumbag number 2, the England fans.
Sure.
Yeah.
Scumbag number 3 was fucking Theo Hernandez, the French fullback who pissed me off at the World Cup with his theatrics and weak ass play, and he did the same thing in this tournament, and he can go fuck himself. I don't know. In terms of players, I'm not sure there weren't that many more, which is, I suppose, it's a nice thing.
Yeah, it was a good tournament. A great tournament. It was a great tournament. And it's such a shame that it has to end specifically like this for us. Because other than that, what a tournament it has been. And it has been a joy to share it with you, David.
Oh, and with you, Dom, yeah. It's been special. And I was glad we got to do some of it in person as well as like this.
Yes, yeah. Well, I guess that's the end of Who Watches the World Cup for this tournament. We might come back with a few bonus episodes now and again, but I think we'll see you next time in 18 months for the Qatar 2022 World Cup sponsored by slave labour.
I was going to say, I'm sure we have a lot to talk about when we get to that.
If what you're after is football and politics, let me tell you, it's going to get heated. Also because it's in Qatar. Yes,
and players will be... Like, if COVID is not a problem in winter 2022, which, fingers
it's
crossed,
looking like it might be.
But it probably will be. We'll also have to deal with players collapsing with dehydration in the Middle Eastern heat.
Yes. This has been a major tournament with where climate change has become a major issue. And I think we're going to see that even more as we go forward. Well, we're going to as we go forward, but especially once we get to Qatar. So, yeah. Fingers crossed we'll see you in 18 months and that the coronavirus or global warming doesn't destroy international football before then.
Here's hoping.
Here's hoping.
See you in 18 months, Dom.
See you in 18 months. Bye.
Bye.